This episode of Going Forward is brought to you by Optimizer, an award-winning PPC management tool used by advertisers worldwide. Save time and boost the performance of your PPC campaigns on Facebook, Amazon, and Google or Microsoft. Get a 14-day free trial at optimizer.com/go/VIP. For those people who don't know exactly who you are, would you be so kind to tell exactly the people, tell them about you, your background, tell them who you are.
I'm an animator. I live in Vancouver, Canada. I worked for the first about 9 years of my career in various animation studios, primarily on TV shows for Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, Cartoon Network. And after that, I decided to start my own studio. It's a little studio called Dancing Line Productions, and we focus on short format animation, primarily commercials, and have been in operation since 2008, so for 15 years this year. And I am the creative director, animator, animation director. And we produce commercials for a variety of industries, like insurance, food and beverage, automotive, education, government, and a lot of big variety of projects.
You've pretty much run the gamut on what you've done already, man. That's a lot, man. How did you get into animating? I mean, were you just like an artist as a kid? How did that come about?
Well, I grew up in Lithuania, and we were exposed, as opposed to very different TV scene than North America. So in terms of the animation, there was not that much serious because it was not very commercially motivated. Normally studios there would get probably government budgets and to produce a short film. So because of that, I guess less timing constraints and less need to create a formula for ongoing TV series. There was a lot of creativity, there was a lot of variety. So we were exposed to a lot of Eastern European cartoons, all produced the same way from Hungary, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Estonia. So there was a lot of techniques and a lot of different genres. There was comedy, there was really fun ones, there were some emotional ones. So it really captivated me, the range of expression that animation offers. And then later, when I was a teenager, I moved to Israel and was exposed to more Western TV. And there is a lot of independent animators that National Film Board of Canada output that were kind of in the same vein. There was a lot of expression, a lot of creativity, imagination in individual short animated films. So that really inspired me into the field. Later, I went to Vancouver to study animation professionally.
So was it like in the different places that you've lived and the different things that you've seen, did all of that kind of help shape like the style that you have, style and animation that you have now?
I suppose so. There are some of my biggest inspirations. Actually, one is Canadian, is Frederick Back, that created very charming short films, and one is from the Netherlands, that is Michael Dudok de Wit, that is very good at expressing emotions through very economical means.
Wow.
So I'm not sure if it was very geographically, defined, but it was, yeah, some kind of combination of various influences.
So, like, do you think, like, now, and coming up in animation, and now, I mean, you see more of animation ads and advertising. Do you think, like, that animation can make advertising easier to understand or easier to get the message?
Yes, definitely. I think there is this, if done correctly, if approached well, it can communicate some, not only the message but the feeling behind it, and that is really important, so that the message resonates, so people can relate to it. And
Mhm.
animation is very versatile to handle a variety of subjects. It doesn't have to be just, fun and
Right.
colorful. It can be address serious topics. So for example, is very good for addressing all kind of awkward topics that are not is difficult to address in live action.
Oh,
Uh,
good point. Great point.
like anything. For example, we are starting to work with a company in the UK that provides solutions for women with breast asymmetry. So we are working on a very light-hearted campaign,
Mhm.
but the company had problems of communicating or introducing their product through other means than animation, because it's difficult to uh, use live action models for this topic. It's feels much more sensitive and awkward using real people,
Mhm.
and we can really deliver the message through animation without really like bypassing the whole issues with, nudity or, sexualization of
Yeah.
like all
So
kind of
it helps
un-
you explain things a little better, I guess. I guess it would be a little more receptive to people because you can animate it. Is that what you're saying?
Right. We don't have to really do that, show it literally with animated characters. We can communicate. I won't get too much into details what we're trying to do, but we are using the flexibility of animation, its ability to express things metaphorically or symbolically. We don't
Mhm.
have to be that literal. So that flexibility of animation really helps with those situations. And
So
also another thing that one would probably wouldn't expect animation to be appropriate is any kind of sad subject, for example,
mm,
depression or death or illness. For example, there is a company in the UK again that specializes in death and funerals and wills, and they completely embraced animation in their branding, and that has been really successful, because if you try to address this issue in live action, is very emotionally taxing, is very
that's
it can
true.
affect a lot of people too negatively, and they just through use of animation they really were able to strip it down to pure emotion of family connection, of love, of caring. So it comes out really warm and appealing, without being overly distressing for viewers. So it's a very nice, nuanced way to approach the subject.
Now, I would have never thought about doing an animation ad for a funeral home. Now, what's that like though? I mean, the whole process, like, because like our team will do, video production, and there's an ideation part, and I got so many questions about this. So when you're doing the animation part, are you storyboarding things? Are you writing out the script still, or do people think like you guys are just winging it just by drawing everything?
Right. Well, every project is different in a sense how polished is their concept by the time it reaches our desk. So
Okay.
if we are working through an advertising agency, if they are our clients, normally the concept is pretty defined by the time we start. They
Okay.
have a script. In those cases, if the script is done and approved, we would just start offering. Well, we learn about the company, about the brand, about the message. It's important to hit the right tone, the right kind of spirit. And then we offer
Wow.
style frames, probably a couple of different options of visual approach, our visual approach. And when we hearing feedback, we narrow it down, and then we start with the storyboard, and we make an animatic, which is a storyboard in a video format, timed to the audio. And so it gives a very good idea to the client how things would unfold. And then after tweaking it a bit, we start with the animation based on that
Mm.
blueprint. Right? In cases where the client is seeking our help with the concept, we just we do the script writing, we create the concept itself. We again may offer a couple of different approaches, and after that is the process follows the same trajectory as I just described.
Mm.
In animation is really better to follow this second path, at least to involve the animation artist early on,
Right.
because in general, people, even ad agency creatives, don't always have a lot of understanding of animation as a medium. And
Exactly. And
yeah,
that's what I was gonna ask you too, because let's just say the people who are designing the concept, and they may
mm,
give you the concept and the script, but by the time they get to you guys, they may not know if they wrote something that's gonna be a little too difficult, or it may require a higher degree of difficulty for the client. So, I mean, how does that work? How does the relationship work when they're giving you the concept? Like, if you're not writing the concept, they make the concept, give it to you, and they may write something that may be more difficult than it needs. You know,
right.
how do you handle all that?
Well, obviously, communication helps. Maybe at that point, we are able to provide some kind of thoughts about the concept, or thoughts how to about the treatment.
Mhm.
I would say that the main concern or most common concern is not so much or it being too difficult to execute, is more that the concept doesn't take full advantage of animation as a medium.
Got
I
it.
think that which would end up in a less effective commercial or less effective video. Animation has these unique strengths that are uh, important to envision in the conceptual step, just to take an advantage of them. Like if I can uh, uh, maybe give an example, it's like somebody choreographing a dance performance without understanding dance. So they may have some idea,
That's
but
a great
they are not quite, they don't know how to take full advantage, how to make, how to use the full range of motion for the
Mm,
dancer, how to use rhythm, how to use different aspects of dance. Is just something they imagine based on something they have seen, which sometimes is not really enough. Like in animation, for example, people often treat it as live action, and one of our most common issues is that the script doesn't involve a lot of dynamic movement. It would
mm,
be mostly people standing or talking or walking, or something very static. And it may work quite well in live action because we have evolved to read nuanced facial expressions and gestures. Like, for example, just showing hands as in close-up in live action sometimes can communicate a lot, is not the same in animation. Animation is a movement-based medium, so it can express a lot, but it needs to express it through movement. Being very basic about it, sitting, standing, and walking is not as exciting in animation, or limits its potential emotionally, comparing to jumping, dancing, and fighting. Let's say.
It sounds like, like just, I really never thought this much about it until you really opened my eyes when you made the comment about doing an animation ad for a funeral home, because immediately somebody would say to you like, that doesn't work, but it's all really in how you sell it. So
Mhm.
now I guess people just don't understand the many ways that you can use animation, you know. Has there ever been a time where you took something really difficult, or a project that was really difficult, and when you applied animation in your services, it just made everything just a lot clearer for anyone, and people just understood it more? Has there ever been a project like that?
That's an interesting question. Uh, Well, I don't know if maybe if that would be a good example. For example, a company called Tim Hortons, that is a donuts cafe type of
Hmm.
chain in Canada, approached
Hmm.
us to. They were opening a, a new type of upscale cafe, new type of upscale restaurant, and they produced a new type of more upscale donuts, more kind of gourmet line of
Ups,
donuts.
upscale donuts.
Yeah. So they wanted to project on a screen in restaurants, on a wall screen, to feature those new donuts, but they didn't want just photography, or just kind of introduce it as menu items. They wanted to do something fun with that.
Yeah.
So in general, I would say, of course, donuts is not something is not an awkward subject to deal in animation, but we proposed to do it through that vignettes of different characters interacting with donuts, and donuts providing not only kind of like a yummy snack, but also
Mhm.
they find some kind of emotional relationship with them, like whether it gives them comfort, or excitement, or energy, or things, way to connect with others, or
Wow.
things like that. So we created a series of like different situations of drawn characters interacting with sometimes photographic images of those new featured donuts in different contexts. So that was like a little bit an unusual way to deal with a subject.
Yeah.
Um, One time we had, for example, a project for TED Ed. They wanted to create a video explaining the physics behind the move in ballet.
Mm.
So it's, even though it's a very kind of a lot of scientific information material, but we were really enjoyed kind of making
Mm.
it fun, and having a ballerina performing the move but posing, and focusing on different aspects on the move. So because it was a motion based type of
Wow.
subject, so it was a really good fit, and it's was a really big viral success for them. So that was nice.
So, how long? Like, this is like we're talking about animation. Like, this is just something that just comes to people, but you have to be a really creative person to either imagine a character or to just create something like that, because a lot of times you guys are working with a blank canvas, and then at the end of it we see 30 seconds or 60 seconds of something where there's been a lot of ideation that came into it.
Mhm.
So how do you not get a writer's block? How do you not get a creative block when doing this, and how do you remain creative and keep yourself sharp? Hey, it's Eric here from VIP Marketing, and I want to ask you, digital marketers, something. Are you frustrated with your current PPC marketing campaigns? Well, I want to tell you about a tool that we use here at our agency. It's called Optmizer. You have the ability to get your reports up to date and make sure that you get alerts on them. You can even work into workflows as well. So if you're frustrated with your campaigns right now in the reporting systems that you use, I want to give you a 14-day free trial of Optmizer. Go to optmizer.com/go/VIP.
Well, it's a great question. I think that it helps a lot that on the initial stage, it's what we need to do is a lot of rough sketches.
Mm,
So we don't need to visualize it completely till the very end. It's a gradual. The project takes shape gradually,
got it.
and the first stage is try a little bit of research, trying to think what style would go well with the subject, with the message,
Hmm.
and then just getting out many sketches and see what works, what catches our attention, what feels right. And obviously the communication with the client helps a lot to narrow it down. And once we have identified a certain approach that works, it just step by step it grows and takes shape.
Wow. Now, you mentioned earlier something that was really difficult, using animation to do the motion and the steps of a ballerina. Now, the name of your company is Dancing Line Productions. Okay. And so now I want to know, like, tell me more about your company, your team, and what sets you guys apart. What makes you guys so unique?
Okay. Well, the reason it's called Dancing Line Productions is because we specialize in 2D drawn animation. So
Mhm,
it's drawing is based on line. We don't. It not necessarily all our animation is line animation or involves lines. Sometimes it's just vector art or some kind of paint look. But generally, drawing at its basis is starts with a line, and dancing because it's expressive moving line, right?
mhm,
It's in movement.
mhm.
There is a famous quote by one of the pioneers of animation, Norman McLaren, that animation is not an art of drawings that move, it's a art of movement that is drawn. So it means that at the core of animation is movement. What is unique for us that we really pay a lot of attention to use movement as an expressive tool, as an engaging tool, as something
Mhm.
that draws us in. We try not to make characters move like just generically, how say, executing the screen, but there is a lot of expression, emotion, character performance, personality that we try to put into every movement, and to try to make sure that overall each video has some kind of organic, natural flow to it.
Wow.
About the team, it's a small company. It's only myself and its permanent staff. Occasionally, depending on the project requirements, I work with additional animators or illustrators or tech people. But generally, commercials is a small team project. Even in a larger studios, only a small team is dedicated to each commercial, because it's maybe 30, 60 seconds of screen time. You need the consistency. There is often no time to break it down into pieces that would be able to involve a large team. So it's it's a very individual type of work. So we try to keep it this way. And since my motivation of founding my studio was more hands-on work on creative projects, so I don't want it to grow into a managerial role at
Right,
once.
right.
I
You
want
can
to
still
be
you can still be an intimate company.
right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's why we restricted to a short format animation. I think our longest animation is around 5 minutes long, and our typical projects are 30, 60 seconds.
Hmm.
So it helps to keep it lean and creative and flexible.
Yeah, people, they might hear, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 5 minutes, but it takes a long time to do a 5 minute project. And I don't think people understand that. I mean, talk about that, about how, people, they consume something in 30 or 60 seconds, but it could have taken you a month or two to make it.
Right. Yes. It's a long process. Animation in general is a long process. The technique that we use, that is more hand-drawn animation, where pretty much every frame is drawn from scratch in
Hmm.
most projects, is time-consuming. We still are very competitive in the advertising world. The deadlines are tight, and we are have to follow those uh, restrictions.
Hmm.
And be have, it's a lot of deadlines, it's a lot of
Yeah.
late nights, but it's fun, there is excitement around it. um, we the My experience really helps me to accurately estimate the amount of work involved, so
Yep.
I can always see since the very beginning if I need to involve an additional person. um, and Yeah, but in the end it works.
What would you say is probably one of the hardest part about, being a creator and animator? What's one of the hardest things?
Probably is this the time constraints is not only it's a little bit of an issue because it doesn't allow experimentation.
Mhm,
There's no
mhm.
time for experimentation, and experimentation is at the core of being able to be creative, right? To offer some completely unexpected solution. So we can envision something, and sometimes we have to go the safe way just to make sure we are on time. So that's why also it's great in those rare cases when we get involved in the project at early stages.
Mhm.
It allows that additional time of testing visually ideas and coming up with something quite unique and unexpected. And when we are approached with a finalized script and a looming deadline, there is less that we can do. The client's return of investment would be somewhat less than if they would have involved us
In the
earlier.
beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's, what are some of the that's a great point, a great segue. So, what are some of the great things that you think clients could do, as they prepare to do a project with you? Because, we've experienced that same thing too, and we've found that a lot of times we're waiting on the client to either approve or move forward with the concept. But what are some great things that they can do to be ready for when they begin a project with you?
Well, I think it's really comes down to involving us early, because I think there is this process of they come up with a script and it goes through various approvals, a
Mhm.
series of approvals and reviews and all of that, until they really have very limited time for execution. And this is where we come in,
Mhm.
and we don't get the chance in those cases to contribute, to share our expertise. And they were polishing the script not based on their understanding of animation or what it could
Right.
offer to them, but based on some kind of other. They were polishing the exact words, or things like that. And I think that if they would involve us earlier on, it really wouldn't cost them more.
Right.
It's We are happy to consult, to guide them in terms of visual solutions. We are happy to provide sketches and motion tests, or just participate in shaping the concept, because we would be just happy to have the best result possible. And it's a joy of working in animation when the concept is really well suited
Yeah.
for it, and to make it shine and to make it a good result. So yeah, we cannot expect from the client to have an understanding of how to use animation to
Mhm.
communicate ideas visually, but if they would trust us to work with us on that, that I think would be a better result for them and more enjoyment for us.
No, I hopefully when people are listening to you and hearing this, they get to hear a lot of the expertise behind what you say, right, Anik? Now, we're in a time now where the genie's out of the bottle and a lot of technology, and things like, AI. How do you feel about AI coming into the industry now? How do you feel about that?
Uh, well, I don't know much about it. I've seen some examples and obviously read a few articles. I understand that for now, maybe it's a little bit crude, but it's going to improve a lot, and there is a lot of fear of it taking over creative jobs. And uh,
But it doesn't have a soul.
yeah.
It doesn't have a soul, and it doesn't have the same kind of experience that you bring to the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I think that uh, especially what is advertising? Advertising is kind of delivering a message, but in order for the message to resonate, it has to be done in a kind of authentic, sincere, personal way, to be relatable. I think that definitely AI can produce a lot of striking visuals and very impressive effects, and generally probably facilitates the whole production
Mhm.
process. But I think it can compete with us on every level except
Exactly.
being human.
Right.
So except being what we are, I think that when we approach our projects, we are not trying to do it, execute, like we're not after technical perfection, although we put a lot of attention into details, but it's more of some kind of personal warmth and some kind of emotional, relatable appeal that speaks to people and touches people's hearts. And those type of projects where we were able to do that were the most successful, the most memorable. We got the most feedback. They were the most effective for the company, for the client. And I think I really cannot. I understand that AI can probably learn to collect, feedback and amount of views and what people respond to, but to create a more kind of eye candy material.
Yeah.
But I don't think on a deeper level it would be as effective as this kind of handcrafted humanly made
having the
warm.
human touch. I
Yeah.
agree with you. I agree with you 1,000%. Now, you've been a part of a lot of different projects, a lot of different projects from the Cartoon Network's Ed, and Eddie. We're on the Barbie TV series. Also did Wow Wow Wubsy, like I mentioned that to you in the beginning before. I mean, what was it like being able to work on some of those projects, in your career, early in your career? And tell me, like, and how did that shape you to who you are now?
Well, yes, I was lucky to be able to work on many productions for TV series for kids. It was really fun. I really like bringing characters to life and giving them personality and making them relatable and fun. And I think it also gave me a lot of skills, a lot of good work habits, a lot of experience of working with people, managing teams. So that all was all very helpful. And for me personally, at some point I got a little bit how said slightly disillusioned on working on such a big productions, because TV series involve a lot of people,
Yeah,
and
a lot.
your opportunity for creative contribution is quite limited, and the career trajectory that was there. I was offered to be like, I was a assistant director and then could move on to become a series director, and it didn't appeal to me that much because it was you stop making work, you start being quality control, and
Wow.
and so you provide notes,
Wow.
you start providing notes to other animators. So it's even though it's a very, like, for some people it's really they're good for that, and it just energizes them even more to work with large teams and large productions. For me it wasn't it. I was more hands-on type of person. I wanted to have a creative contribution. So I think for me the solution of moving on to the commercial to advertising world and focusing on small scale projects that each is different and each has needs to have a new ideas, not just following the same type of formula. So that's what motivates me personally.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna read back I started put my head down and I started writing exactly what you said. You said, "Stop being work and start being quality control," is what it started to be. That is one of the things I think that would make creators disconnect more than anything. When you are not allowed, it's almost like you put your creativity in a cage. Has there ever been a project that you were just like, "Oh, man, I just," that it's just been so hard. I mean, you overcame it, but it was just difficult. Name one project that was just the most difficult project you've ever had, Anik.
Okay. Well,
I'm making you think today.
yes. Uh, well, I think that in terms of the stress, the most difficult project I had, there was we were approached by an ad agency quite early on in my as like probably a year after I started Dancing Line Productions, We were approached by an ad agency to create a series of TV commercials for the local government, for the government of British Columbia, that was about to have a referendum on a new taxation system.
Oh my God.
So it was a very sensitive, very political issue. It's almost like the provincial government was holding on to their
Wow.
seat based on this issue. And the deadlines were absolutely crazy. And so while I was working on one commercial, the previous one was already on TV, as aired all over the province. And based on the feedback, people's feedback for that commercial that is on TV, the agency was changing the script for the commercial I was currently working on.
Get out of here.
There was constant real-time revisions and script changes while I was working on it. So it was and the deadlines were absolutely insane. And there was 10 of the, we produced 10 of those commercials. So in terms of the pressure and how immediacy and all of the politics involved, it was a very
Oh my gosh.
intense project. And there were obviously people were reacting to the commercial not only based on its animation appeal, but also on the political, people of the opposite political side were super critical. So it was very important to hit the right tone.
Oh my goodness.
So,
you could not win in that one, because somebody's going to be happy on one side, and then the other side, somebody's going to be really unhappy. Now,
it became quite popular though, and even if the opposite political side started doing their own kind of crude version to try to imitate it and bring the opposite of more critical message. So it was quite a big it was stressful times, but it was a very good learning experience. I really realized that sometimes it feels the project seems impossible, but it is possible if you are cool-headed and you just dedicate yourself to doing the best possible work.
Great.
The rest just doesn't matter. While I was working on it, I wasn't even aware of all of the emotions going on around.
Wow. That's a good way to keep yourself grounded. Now, tell me about a project that was just an absolute dream for you, the total opposite of that project, and something that was just like, wow, you could just sit back and say, I did that. I am super proud of that.
Well, it's good question. I am still looking for this kind of project, but I could say maybe we'll mention two projects that came close to that. One was we were creating commercials for a company called Canada Protection Plan, as a life insurance company. What was really great, it was great working relationships, but also they approached us early on and they asked us to design a new mascot for their company, something friendly and approachable. And so we gave them tons of different options and ended up with this kind of simple yellow, soft type of character that was very expressive. And we produced 5 TV commercials, 60 seconds commercials in English and French that was screened all over Canada. And it was really nice because they allowed us to put a lot of movement into this into the animation and let the character be fun and expressive. And it was ended up to be super popular with small kids. We received tons of feedback of parents being just fascinated that the child would leave everything when the commercial was on TV and watching it. And obviously, like, it wasn't our target audience necessarily, small kids for an insurance company, but their families responded with such a delight to this fascination. They said, we received comments like, this is the only time we're able to feed our toddler when the commercial is on TV, or this is the best thing our kids want to watch on TV. And parents were seeking out like the online versions to just to keep watching, and we were asking for toys, and had such a warm, positive feedback to those commercials. And also the company used a lot of branding based on this Can You character. So on Toronto Santa Claus Parade for 2 years, we designed a giant float for them to, like, we provided designs that were made into floats to participate in the
Now
parade. So it became
talk about your work coming reality now.
right. So
Yeah.
it was really rewarding, and the whole experience was really great, and it was very effective, beneficial for the brand awareness and engagement for the company. So that was great. Another project that I am proud of, it was a campaign for the Heart and Stroke Foundation, introducing, like, it's a daunting task for many people to exercise regularly, and this commercial was more, the campaign was more aiming to say that all kind of, it doesn't have to be what we consider exercise, it can be any type of movement, any type of activity that brings you joy is beneficial. So we had to come up with a very kind of non-athletic, relatable character that would go through a series of different motions and situations to illustrate that concept. That raking leaves, kayaking, dancing, any type of not as intense
Movement, just
physical
movement.
activity, it really helps, especially at certain age. So the beauty of that was that it was all expressive movement and one relatable character with personality, and that's what animation is really well suited for. So it was really fun to work.
Man, well, Anik, you have some experience on a lot of projects, man, and I'm blown away. And just to tell our listeners, some of the people you work with, Tim Hortons, like you mentioned earlier, General Motors, Canada Protection Plan, even Select Health here in South Carolina, our home state, Virginia Hospital Center, Pfizer, and the government of British Columbia. I'm honored to be able to have you as a guest today. I think it was a great discussion. For those people actually looking for you, tell them exactly how to find you and your company.
Thank you very much, Eric. Such warm words. Thank you. My company website is dancinglineproductions.com, and this is where most of the information is. I think our Instagram, not very regularly updated, is Dancing Line Productions. And you can find us on Twitter and on LinkedIn.
So people are interested in you. You do business all over the world. It's not just, in Canada. You can do things all over the world.
Yes, that's true. Although we mostly had US and Canada-based clients so far, but would love to work with all kind of clients all over the world. Yes.
That's awesome. I want to thank you for being a great guest today, Anik, and also I want to thank our listeners for giving us their most valuable asset, something they can never get back, regardless of how much money they have. It is time. So thank you all for being great listeners. I want you to go follow Anik and also check out his company, Dancing Lion Productions, at dancinglionproductions.com. And if you all feel like you've gotten some value from this podcast, I want you to definitely share it out and tell folks about it. And don't be afraid to go out and give us a great rating. Anik, thank you, man.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank
Pleasure.
you. I want to thank you all for giving us your most valuable asset, your time. And also a huge thank you to our sponsors over at Optmizer. For all of you who are running PPC campaigns and you want to see how to do it better and get better results and actually boost the performance of your campaigns and save time, get a free trial at optmizer.com/go/VIP.